Hello, everybody. Welcome to Q&A Tuesday. I got a great question today. Somebody wrote, I have this disturbing belief that I can't seem to overcome, despite trying to implement the work. My parents were the children of very troubled parents, and they demonstrated to us kids, my siblings and I, these terrible, stormy thoughts and behaviors about fear of life and hatred of the body. Quick sum up, it's too late for reprogramming. Look at each one of us kids. We all struggle with binge eating. No more evidence needed. None of us has ever been able to hold on to new ways of thinking long enough for true change. It's too late for hope. We can't overcome our broken childhood. No matter how many times I've tried to turn around these beliefs, I always seem to act on them, and it's so discouraging to see my siblings doing the same. Can you please help? Okay. Powerful question. I understand the concept of seeing something that looks like it's been going on forever. This has been happening my whole life. My immersion and training and conditioning is so old and, so original from way back. You see what happens when we believe. That's how it looks. You remember vividly. Memory is amazing, isn't it? We can just remember the way it looks in these moments. And talking about siblings, it's incredible. I myself have 3 siblings, so I know what that's like when we all recall a certain incident or day or, something that happened of significance or maybe not so significant. Maybe it was significant for one person, not for another. And the memories are completely different, even though we were all in the same room. We were all there. So the perspective is very, individual from this one little point throughout life. So we can see that we never see the full picture. We take in what we're seeing like sponges and make decisions, draw conclusions, see what we see from all that. And then from a more current point, it looks like we're able to see all those memories and all those pictures and all those stories go through the mind about what's happened. And that's a really discouraging thought. Notice it's too late for reprogramming. And then we all struggle. So it's not just me, but my siblings who were there too. And we all struggle with it. So good to see that just the evidence of the story, the richness of the story, in a way, the solidness of the story, the way that looks. Here's what it's like. This is what happened. This is how I'm influenced. And no matter how many times I question it or go through it, it doesn't change. And notice in that itself, the demand for change, which I know is odd to even question at all in the first place. But of course we want change. That's what I'm doing here. That's why I'm interested in the work and self-inquiry and looking at mind, is because how it isn't acceptable to me. But just for a moment at the beginning of this, what if you didn't try so hard to actually change? We can't change our history. We can certainly change how we see it. And I love that we can there's no way I could see the full picture. I can just see a little, as far as my eyes or my ears or whatever it was that could happen at the time. It's just like a quick moment, sort of a flash in time. Evidence because the other people that were there saw something different or, could see it from a different angle. But just noticing I love that comment, no more evidence needed, as if there's enough here to prove. This proves that there's no hope for me. So, too late for reprogramming. No hope for me. This will never change. Looking at it with a very, very open mind instead of like an intention. I mean, I would just offer this to get rid of this thought because it feels stressful. Instead, like just allowing that thought to be there, talking about lack of hope. Why bother? Just give up. And maybe there is some wisdom in just giving up, and why bother? But it might not look the way we think it looks. So notice what happens when you see it that way. Too late. It's too late for me. This struggle is endless. It goes on and on. I even have siblings to prove it. My parents were troubled. We're all troubled. The family's endlessly troubled. Too late. It's too late for hope. Is it true? I mean, can you absolutely know that that's true? Can you know it for certain? Final answer. Like in Jeopardy, one of those, that's your final answer? Can you know that that's the case? It really is absolutely too late. Notice what happens when you think it. It's too late for me. It's not possible to have hope. I mean, interesting to see. Is hope what is necessary here? Is hope the missing ingredient? You know, there's something tricky about hope. Hope is something happening later on. Like if I have hope, then I'm kind of waiting with anticipation in a good way, we think. You know, I'm getting ready for this thing that I really believe is going to happen later, not right now. So I'm hoping about it. And there's an unknown there, at least it seems like to me. It's in the future is when the thing that I want is going to happen, but it's in the future. It's not here right now. So is that the thing that's missing, this hope? Is that what I really want? Some hope? Do I not want to feel just simply okay with what is, allowing things to be the way they are in the moment, in my experience? Without any hope for the future. Maybe this aspect of hope isn't really what the missing link is. I mean, who would I be without the story? What an amazing question. And, you know, this question asker is somebody who's familiar with the work and has been asking the 4 questions and finding turnarounds with these concepts. And sometimes it's just you've to approach it with a very, very new, fresh mind that's open, like saying, it's too late for reprogramming, but it's too late for hope. Is that so bad? I mean, who would I be right now without the story of any future whatsoever? Because we notice the past is what's sort of a burden here. It's like just filling my mind with evidence of how it's not possible for me to have peace. That this, in this case, binge eating has got to stop. What if it's okay that it's been there? And what if you noticed how much it hasn't been there? There's been so many other things any one of us have done, even if we've just eaten constantly in our lives, or done the compulsion. There's been, talking and conversations and working and sleeping and moments where whatever our compulsive behavior was non-existent. We weren't in it at all, but we'll sort of ignore all that. That doesn't matter. It's just these highlights, these storms I want to look at. Those are the things that matter. And it seems like they do because they've caused so much stress and we're wondering about them, but it's less than like our whole lives then, because the mind will make it so big and grand. My whole life, totally no hope at all here. Too late for me. Who would you be without that story? And that a waiting, like this hope that something will happen. What if you had no future? What if you just didn't believe thoughts about the future? I mean, what is happening right now in this moment without a story? And it doesn't mean that the story's gone. Like, let's say there's the story running, talking about, well, remember this, and gosh, and it's just so sad because you see that, golly, you see that picture of there's my mom and there's my dad. Oh, shoot. And then, it's just babbling, like a babbling brook. It just talks and it skips around all over the place and it's finding evidence and proving its story. What if that is just the mind talking, making noise? Think like a wind machine, or a fan blowing. Who would you be without believing the story? Without taking the words and the communication that the mind is, arguing for seriously? Who would you be? What if it's totally fine to have no hope because that is something later in the future, just being right now? What if this is it right now? Now, this moment. So no wish for something later, no discouragement about what's happened already, no wish for it to go back to the way it was, no anxiety about what might happen later. Who would you be without any of that being true? Even if the mind is talking about all that. Just now. Just feel the moment of right now without believing stories. Without believing stories. It's too late. It's too early. No hope. In some ways, it's really interesting. Having lots and lots and lots of hope is not very peaceful. What if hope is just not necessary here? It seems like it, there's lots of tales and great movies and stories and adventures where the person didn't lose hope and that's why they kept going. And I don't even know if that's necessarily true. Maybe we just do keep going. I don't know. I mean, notice that we don't drop dead just because we've lost hope. You don't just fall to the ground. Hope is not required to remain animated, alive, full of life, actually, existing. It's kind of not even necessary to have hope or not. So who would we be without the story? Who would we be as we gaze and look at life? And then, how interesting, because maybe a lot of this has been triggered with just really desperately gripping and wanting it to change so bad. You just want this thing to change so bad. This is odd. But what if you didn't want it to change so bad? What if you just, took a deep breath and relaxed with what is? This condition, this experience, this thing called binge eating in this case. noticing what works and what doesn't. Just really seeing, wow, it brings a lot of suffering when I do it. It also brings some relief. There's something very compelling about it. What am I seeing there? I'm getting really, really busy inside my mind. I'm really believing a lot of my thinking, and I just begin to panic and am certain that the eating cycle, that this just the doing of this is going to help things relax and calm down. I mean, what if I was more interested in doing nothing? What if I just, lose all the passion about making that experience go away? If I just stop trying? It's kind of funny. It feels a little bit like when you give up and it's hopeless. Who would you be without the story of hope? So, too late for hope. Every so often, there's turnarounds that can be found where we call them a Yahoo turnaround or a, yippee turnaround. And sensing the joy of that kind of moment. Wow, it's too late for hope. Like, great, I don't need to have any hope here. This moment now is very alive, bursting with a lot of flow of just life force running, activated, creative. This moment is like right now, without any future, without any past. It's just now. I love that the past and the future is only in the mind. You just think of it. The body's never saying, well, yesterday, or like my finger's not talking about that. Sure, there might be sort of things activated between the mind and body that are aware and have logged in experience and all that, but it's right now, it's a new moment. And if there's no timeline, if there really is no timeline, I mean, just imagine that for a moment, because the mind really gets this, so interested in the timeline that kind of moves from left to right. Well, like you drew on the page when you were in school, and left is when you were born. And then you can label the years that go by all the way up to your present age and talk about the compulsion that was happening inside of that timeline. But that's all in the past, and it's all in the mind. Without thoughts about that can't even be here right now. I'm just feeling the present moment, the pulse of life, a breath coming in and out, a flow where your body is meeting the earth in a chair or a couch, or feet on the floor, feet on the ground, lying down. Just a moment, being. What is being without a thought about it? Just here, alive. It's never too late for programming. You can turn that around. It isn't too late. I mean, too late, that means there would be a thing that's supposed to happen at a certain time. And we're saying it's too late. And it wasn't supposed to happen at a certain time, like reprogramming. That's just with the belief reprogramming is supposed to happen at such and such an hour on such and such a day at a certain time, which kind of falls apart quickly as far as the story goes, because you already know, we don't even know that that's true. We don't know what's going to happen in an hour. Not really. We can make really good predictions. And it looks like the sun comes up when it does, and the day passes as it does. But it is just this amazing flow of rebirth and death and newness and quiet, constantly moving. That's what it seems like. just a movement and a stillness within, seeing it all. It's not too late for reprogramming. And yay, it's too late for hope. Like, don't I want something to be present here right now, not waiting for it? I'm hoping for that, even if it's tomorrow or next year, maybe one more year, and then I'll be ready. Then I'll be done. Then I'll be I will be arrived at the place that I'm hoping to arrive at. I'd not leave it up to your mind to make a decision about whether you're there yet or not. What if you're there already? What if? What if? It never kind of leaves out that part. What if you have all you need and it doesn't matter what you've experienced? Not in this moment. Who would you be without the story of struggle? Who would you be without the story of struggle? What would that be like if you just didn't believe that story in this moment? It's okay that the mind is talking about it. We're not asking, let's not have a single thought about struggle, because that's impossible to control thinking. And to see, maybe this compulsive movement has something to just deeply notice about what we're thinking and believing in the moment that occurs, and right before, speaking of time, kind of how the cycle works. Something reminds me. I get into the story. I start diving in. I have all the images of the past and where this is going in the future. Just if I do nothing, what if I did nothing about it? Seems so odd. What an odd answer for the mind. But what an amazing answer too. Letting life handle this, which is my deepest joy, really. Here I am being life, being lived. My mind is really not in charge of things. It's just offering up ideas and solutions and predictions and assessments and interpretations of everything, and those can't be true. So who am I without that story? And that's a discouraging story. We can't overcome our broken childhood. I love noticing that if something is stressful or causes suffering, it probably isn't true. It's not true. It doesn't mean things aren't absolutely heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, or, just like life-changing. We're not saying that. We're not kind of dismissing experience by saying that. But what if it's possible that I've already overcome a broken childhood? I just don't realize it all the time. Or my mind doesn't. My mind is talking about it. I've already overcome a broken childhood. In the most simple way, here we are now, adults, all grown up. So there's evidence for that. So let that be an exercise. I like sometimes with these very big, heavy, very intense kind of stories that seem to be really serious, is to just stay in question 4 for a while. Now, wait, what would it be like if I didn't believe that? I'm noticing I'm just having thoughts that I'm believing. That means I'm just repeating them and grabbing onto them and feeling like they're the truth and telling myself that they're the truth. And that's all believing really is, and like pinning evidence up, for how it is true, kind of proving it. And my mind can't know if something's really, really, really true forever or not. So just staying in question 4, who am I without my story? Who am I without this thought? Very stressful thought. Who would I be? Who am I without believing what I'm thinking? Maybe there's no hope, and that's fantastic. Lots of love.